We are being encouraged to outsource everything to AI as soon as possible. Writing, thinking, structured notes, admin tasks. Hand it over, move faster. That's the pitch. More output, fewer bottlenecks, especially if you're working alone, you're running a business alone or whatever, you're remote working, I don't know what. Today, I spent 3 hours making a custom GPT to streamline my workflow for a client, and it doesn't work. It's just not as good. So I just did it manually and it took me under half an hour. But I'm just constantly being told that I'm losing time if I'm not getting AI to speed up the process. I just think it's bullshit. I think it's actually bullshit. Anyone who has managed people will recognize that, because delegation always carries overhead. You trade execution time for clarification time. You explain, you review, you decide what is good enough. And with AI, that shows up as iterations rather than meetings. I guess the confusion arises because the work that we are delegating was never expensive work, you know? When you write something that you've already written, when you respond to an email that you already understand, when you tidy up a paragraph that already exists in your head, the cost sits in your own attention. If you're tired or distracted, you're not facing a complex task. But translating what you know into instructions, it just slows you down. I feel like when I'm using AI, I get irritated by the end of the day. I'm using something so powerful, and yet I don't feel like I'm any further along sometimes. Sometimes it's fantastic. Sometimes it's just frustrating. And I think the more I work on myself and my own skills, the more it's disappointing. I think the problem is that we collapse very different types of work into the same thing. Some tasks are expensive because they repeat. So that's what, formatting reports or cleaning data from systems. And in that case, precision matters less than consistency. But other tasks are more expensive because they require judgment. Choosing what to emphasize, knowing when something is ready, or sensing when something is just too much and needs to be adjusted. That can look slow from the outside because the cost is in decision making. But AI shines in the first category. It's useful when the work repeats, when the structure is known, and when a slight misstep just doesn't matter. It struggles when the value lives in tasks where the knowledge has been built in experience. Things that you have done hundreds of times before, not because you can just describe the problem clearly. Well, this becomes obvious when people start using AI and outsource their thinking to it. They ask for frameworks before they even know the problem that they're solving. They ask for drafts before they even know what they want to say. They treat AI like a shortcut around clarity, and they spend all their time correcting output. They spend all their time correcting outputs that mirror their own confusion. And the time just doesn't disappear, it moves from making to managing. And I feel like there's also a cultural layer to all of this, because in our rush to eliminate friction, we've started to treat any pause, any resistance, or any moment of effort as failure. If a task feels heavy, then it's just assumed to be wrong. Sometimes the friction is doing useful work, and thinking is uncomfortable when it hasn't settled yet, because writing feels slow when you haven't formed the idea. And these phases look inefficient from the outside, but they are what builds resilience and they build judgment. And skipping them doesn't remove the cost, it just postpones it. So when people say that AI often makes them feel busier instead of freer, that's usually why, because they replace a moment of focused effort with an ongoing requirement to manage outputs that never quite land on their own. And I feel like this distinction becomes clearer when you look at where AI really shines, because that's in drafting outlines, summarizing material that you already understand, generating options that removes labor. But it's actually really less helpful when it depends on taste, timing, or restraint, and work which isn't really about phrasing, but about whether it's even worth saying at all. Many people are now building entire systems around work that should stay informal. And they formalize and optimize too early, me included, and then feel trapped inside all these processes that we've created to save time. And we spend hours managing tasks that used to just take care of themselves. So I think a cleaner approach that I'm going to do is noticing which tasks are actually expensive to me, which ones deserve systems because they drain energy in their repetition, but which ones deserve my full attention because they will in turn sharpen my judgment and my ability to just create in general. I find that doing something yourself once properly usually reveals whether it needs a system or not. However, there is a time and a place for creating that system, and you have to be mindful of automating on company time. If you have deadlines, sometimes you're just going to need to do it yourself. And if you haven't truly understood the task that you're trying to automate, then you're just wasting time anyway because you'll end up faffing. So yeah, this is not me rejecting AI, and this is not me suggesting you reject AI. This is just an invitation to be more selective, because outsourcing by default feels productive, but it's not. And choosing carefully tends to just feel a bit lame sometimes, like you're a bit of a Luddite. But if you're getting to the end of your day and you haven't got much mental space left, then that's cost you a lot more. So, yeah. That's today. See you tomorrow.